I agree what you're saying, but it's the cost gonna be more about.
Wherever we are in time to do that.
Kids are right next door to it. Something comes down off that building, window falls out, shingle comes down, you name it. Not to mention,
Have they really?
Oh, yeah.
somebody goes in there and burns that thing down and all those buildings.
We ready to go, guys?
Yeah.
We're hot. That's why.
Hot mic.
All right. Let's open this town council meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
we are late tonight.
First item, Twyla.
Roll call. Counselor Albert?
Here.
Counselor Kobe?
Here.
Counselor Crawford?
Here.
Counselor Lunt?
Here.
Counselor Ward?
Here.
Counselor Crafts and Burnell?
Are excused.
Thank you.
Next,
Is under good news and recognition.
Mark, you're up.
My name is Mark Stevens. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director. And I'm here tonight to talk to you a little bit about a project that I spoke with the Girl Scouts about. And I wanted to introduce the group. The advisor, before I start though, I want to introduce the advisor. Her name is Jamie Martin. And if you could come up here for a minute. Jamie Martin's been an assistant director for the Parks and Rec Department for 10 years. I think she worked longer than that as a field hockey coach. And she's been teaching for the town of Lisbon for nearly 20 years. And so I found out this afternoon that she was going to be at tonight's meeting, so I'm thinking this would be a great opportunity to show our appreciation. So let me show her what I got. Just read this inscription on the plate here. It says, "Thank you. Presented to Jamie Martin." I can't see it very well. There you go. The Assistant Parks and Recreation Director from 2007 to 2017. We extend to you our deepest appreciation for the devoted years you spent with us. Signed, Lisbon Parks and Recreation staff.
Thank you.
You're not expected to do a speech or anything.
Would you like
Oh,
to say a
good.
couple words?
No.
Okay.
No?
Thank
But-
you, though.
No, it's fine.
So I would like to have the girls come up from the Girl Scout troop. I'd like to have them introduce themselves. And we'll talk a little bit about what the project is.
My name is Abby Cunningham.
My name is Amelia Mooney.
My name is Caroline White.
These group of girls met with me about a month and a half ago, and they were interested in doing a project. And they came to me with a project of doing a dog park. And everybody's been talking about a dog park. It seems like for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. And this is how things start happening, where the community comes to us and we allow them or encourage them to proceed. They have great leaders. They're smart girls, and when I met with them, I told them that the process of doing a project is you find out what you're going to do, explain what you're going to do, where you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, and why you're doing it. And so they come up with all these questions. They even did a survey recently. I know that some of them have done some work already, and that Positive Change is going to be involved with helping out as much as possible. If there's any fundraising right now, we're anticipating not to have to do any fundraising, or I don't think we don't have any cost associated with this project. But we want to let you know what we're doing, what these girls are doing, and that we would like to meet with you at a later time to give you a progress. But at this point, answer any questions you might have, and they'd be willing to answer any questions you might have about where they're going to be going and how they're going to be doing it.
Do you guys have a location that you're looking at for the park?
We were thinking the Summer Street Park.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. It's a great location. It needs a lot of work. Knowing it from the Boy Scouts perspective, it's a piece of property that does need a lot of upkeep.
Now, I gave them that idea because it's a park that really isn't well known, and if they show some of the survey questions, one of the questions was, do you know where Summer Street Park was? And looking at the results, 50% of the people didn't know
Right.
it was a Summer Street Park. So just like every other park that we have, our goal is to make it so it's not Lisbon's best kept secret anymore. We want to make sure that people know where the parks are, And part of the plan, I think, is going forward is going to have some off-street parking. Right now, there's no parking at Summer Street. You have to park on the road. So that's going to be part of the, if we do decide to go at Summer Street, they're going to be looking at other areas too around town where it's going to be the best possible place. But that's going to be all in part of the planning project.
Are the trails still there?
There's plenty of trails there.
How about the markings and that type of stuff? I know that kind of, it's been, what, 6, 8 years since Seth worked on that?
The markings are all there, the trails, the sign's still there, that's
Right.
color-coded.
Right.
And we have been doing some clearing, there's been some trees that dropped. We put a picnic table out there a couple years ago. It's being used, but it's still not nearly
Yeah,
as what it's.
totally underutilized, absolutely.
Beautiful park, it's beautiful,
Yep.
it's right down the river. And if anybody hasn't been there, it'd be a great 15-minute walk. Check it out.
Sounds like an awesome project, guys. You guys got your hands full on that one. I'd like to see where it actually plays itself out, for sure.
Are you all seeking donations from the public?
Not at this point. We don't know what we're doing or how we're doing it yet, so we're gonna come up with a plan. We're gonna present it to you, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect.
Hopefully that plan will include maybe an opportunity for the Davis Street extension after we'll finish the work down there and with the signage. If you do decide to make the Summer Street Park your a dog park, a great way to lead people not away from downtown, but at least make them aware of that option.
Davis Street sign.
So, yeah, right there in that signage, or whether it's at that crosswalk when they're coming off of the,
Right.
yeah, or if they're coming off there and they want to continue down. So something to keep in mind, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Best of
guys.
luck.
Any other good news and recognition?
I have something.
Perfect.
Twyla last week received the Ethelyn Stewart Marthia, is that how you pronounce it? Award, and that award is given out by the president of the Clerks Association. She picks a deserved clerk to receive that award. And just a little bit of background on Ethelyn. She was a magnificent individual of towering character, warming humor, and soaring soul. Doesn't that fit Twyla to a T? She was a patient mentor, willing and endlessly sharing her many talents with municipal clerks. Ethelyn served clerks in numerous capacities, including president and vice president of the Maine Town City Clerks Association and her county association. She was an exceptionally effective instructor for a variety of clerk workshops and an active committee member on numerous county, state, and national committees, including the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. She was the 1995 Maine Clerk of the Year and the Lorraine M. Fleury Award recipient. Ethelyn was the town clerk and assistant town manager of Kennebunk. As a municipal clerk, she established an extraordinarily high standard for all municipal clerks to strive to achieve. And our Twyla received the award. Congratulations.
Anybody else? I have one. Judy Aldridge from the Lisbon Community Garden has again brought in flowers from the garden. And she's been bringing in vegetables, I guess, as well to the town hall. So putting the plug out there because there is still space, if not for this year, definitely for something to consider for next year. So contact Judy. You can get her information, I'm sure, through Mark. Moving right along, Twyla.
Next is the public hearing. The proposed bond for the wastewater collection and treatment system upgrades.
I'll open up the public hearing.
I'm Mandy Olver from Olver Associates, the town's engineer on the project, and I have a brief presentation. Folks, if anybody was interested in the handout, they're in the little bin over there. If you didn't get one on your way in, I'm just going to briefly go through that and then answer any questions.
Thank you, Mandy.
So our firm was hired by the town to do a study of the sewer system and of the pump stations and other wastewater infrastructure. So your infrastructure consists of about 35 miles of gravity sewer, which is quite a large system, 12 wastewater pumping stations that are used to pump things from low areas up into the gravity lines, 4 miles of force mains that are from the pump stations into the gravity lines, the wastewater treatment plant, and there are about 1,976 folks that are connected to the sewer. So the part of the reason we were hired is because the Department of Environmental Protection, which regulates all wastewater facilities and is the licensing authority for wastewater in the state of Maine, requires that a certain amount of maintenance and investigation of sewer systems be done on a periodic basis, especially if there are any issues that happen occasionally with a pump station or with a sewer where there's a backup. They expect you to be investigating the cause of this and having a prioritized plan of how to address this infrastructure and keep it up. It's a requirement, and if it's something that if a town doesn't do that, that you put yourself out there subject to an enforcement or some fines. So it's a prudent thing to be doing. The study that we did, which was completed about a year ago, identified over $20 million of improvements. Now, no one expects $20 million of improvements to be addressed immediately, but there are things that need some immediate attention. And one of the ways to do this is to apply for funding, including grant funding, which is what we've been working on since this study came out a year ago, which is leading us up to the referendum issue that we're talking about. So on page 3, the priorities for sewer system repair. Most of the money that's being sought, it's a $9 million package at this point, is related to sewers. And these are the reasons we've picked certain areas, because as we said, we have $20 million of projects. Where do you start? So we're looking at the worst areas as far as condition, but we're also looking at some of the locations strategically for other reasons. And one would be Main Street, because we know that the Department of Transportation has been talking for quite a while about doing a project on Main Street. I guess it's going to happen in 2020. You'll see in my presentation at one point in time we said 2018, went to 2019. Now I think we're talking 2020. But that's one of the reasons we wanted to pick a location that we know is going to be reconstructed, and obviously we want to get our utilities taken care of under that area before that happens. The other reasons are sewers in poor structural condition, places where there is excess groundwater infiltration or inflow that's getting into the sewer system. When these excess flows happen during rainy weather or high groundwater, then they can overwhelm your pumping stations and lead to overflows, which are illegal. So we're looking for places that we can relieve that overloading. And then we also, because everything starts kind of in the east part of town, works its way from Lisbon Center over to the falls and to the treatment plant, we're looking at things that are being pumped multiple times as it progresses across the system. So there's a priority made strategically to start more on the west. So the projects that have been recommended for the first phase of work are the Main Street sewer, because of the DOT project, and 12,000 linear feet of leaking, failing sewers, and the streets are listed: Park, Ferry, Nason, Andrea, Madeline, Webster, St. Anne, and Upland. Now, there are other places that could have been done. These are just picked as being some of the places that might be in the worst structural shape and also in our strategic areas. On page 4, these are internal video reports, just some excerpts from our report that give you an idea of the condition of some of the spots in the sewer. And again, we have many such photos, but these are just places where you can either see root balls, which obstruct the line. They get in through cracks in the pipe. There are places where there are actually holes in the pipe, and then you can see on the bottom of the page some places where there are some cracks visible. And there are quite a few places where pipe used to be made of vitrified clay or asbestos cement. It's just not very doesn't hold up well to frost, so the repeated frost action eventually cracks those pipes and leads to the kind of problems that we see here. It's very typical. And in the pump station and treatment plants, we've identified the Davis Street pump station as a location because it's one of your major pumping stations as far as what kind of flow it handles, and it has had some mechanical issues in the past as a target area for an upgrade. And at the treatment plant at this point, we're not recommending a lot of work, but the chlorine tank is the place where all the water's disinfected. If that's not big enough, which right now it's undersized per standard, it's unable to properly disinfect the flow before it leaves, especially where you're seeing some excess flows during storms. If there is any extra money that's left, because the way that this package works, the loan money spent first, the grant money spent second. So if you end up having any money left over, you're going to want to spend it. We're not going to say, okay, we're going to stop now, because then you lose the grant. So we're going to spend every penny. And the things that they've already asked us to put down for eligibility would be the Brook Street pump station and added work at the treatment plant. So, and that all has to be cleared and included in the application, and that's what we've done. So as I already mentioned, on page 6, the budget is $9 million, and most of it is sewer replacement at this point. $6.6 million is proposed, $2.2 million in work at the pump station and at the treatment plant, and then there's $200,000 of legal interest, contingencies, and this is fluid. None of these things are in stone. We can spend more on sewer and more on the treatment plant as it comes to bid. During design, we'll figure all that out. Now, The pending offer, which, and I say pending, I guess we have had some additional correspondence as of today as far as a letter from rural development. This is not in stone yet, but because of the timing of the referendum, you know, obviously we're down this path. What's proposed to be offered to you is a $6,543,000 of loan and grant $2,457,000. The interest rate on the loan would be 2.6%, and I say or less, because if, should interest rates decrease, you will close at the lowest rate, not at the rate, but it can't go up. And then the term would be 29 years with an annual payment of $325,000, with a 27% of the funding being from a grant, which, I mean, is something that you definitely want to be taking advantage of, because bottom line, and if you get on page 8, which is the last page of the presentation, if everything goes well and voters vote to proceed, then we just start down the path of accomplishing these projects. If for some reason people don't support this and it isn't voted on, you'll lose your opportunity to get this grant money. It doesn't mean you couldn't apply for something else, but this agency, once you turn it down, they're not really going to be willing to offer you the same thing again. They're going to assume, okay, well, this is going to spend our money someplace, because it's very competitive to get this. And it's very likely the Department of Environmental Protection, who is watching what's going on the sidelines here, is going to step forward and be more forceful. And I don't know if that means a written, you know, path that they're going to put you on, or certainly some meetings. They've been asking me what's going on, and they know where you are, and they're watching, and they're happy with what's happening right now, but they won't be happy if this doesn't happen. So, can I answer any questions?
If this is, if this is turned down by the voters, what kind of timeline would it be for, that they would want to, like it says, with or without grants? What?
That's difficult to say. I can't predict that it would come in. What has happened in other communities, and I have no idea if it'll happen here, is they come in with what they call a consent agreement or a consent decree. This consent agreement is something negotiated, where they come in and say, we know you have these issues, we want you to do something about it. They're going to set up a schedule and you'll follow it, and it'll go into your license. If you didn't agree to that, then the consent decree, which is imposed on you, could happen. And I mean, that's not a place most people want to go, because sometimes there's fines with that as well.
Thank you.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, because I had the good fortune of being here when we had the workshop, and you guys gave us some great information. But right now, we control our destiny in the sense that we're making these choices, and they're not being dictated to us. Some suggestions that have been made, but they're allowing us to control our own fate and see that we're actively trying to do something about our infrastructure. We've made great efforts to maintain some of the stations and some of our infrastructure, but realizing that we're a small community and we have a lot of infrastructure to deal with.
You do.
It's not unusual to see that some of the, I'm looking at some of the pictures again that refresh my memory from the workshop, where there were a ton more and there were a lot more graphic.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, some of the disrepair that we have. And the stations themselves were, when we had situations where excess water, so it's seeping in through the ground into these cracked pipes, so you're putting more pressure on these stations already as well to process all that additional water that's seeping in through. It's going to be a cost savings for us, not only to get on board now and get this done, because we have some grant money to help offset that initial investment, but it'll also save us down the line, because it'll put less stress on these pumping stations. Would that be a fair assessment?
Oh, very much so. And there's other reasons why you'll save money. I mean, first of all, nothing's getting cheaper.
Right.
Every year, we plan on 3 to 5% of escalation in costs. So as we go down the road here and you defer, you know, capital projects, they're going to cost more. So, and yes, there'll be less energy and less wear and tear on things right now, and, you know, less potential adverse environmental impacts, because if things are overwhelmed, the pumps can only pump so much water. If more comes, it's going somewhere. It's either going to flood your station and possibly cause damage, or it's going out the door, you know, and that happens.
And if we pass on this, as you just mentioned, and we have some events where we have some events that aren't approved by EPA or DEP or whoever it is that regulates, then they can fine us and still tell us that we need to get this stuff fixed. And like you said, put it in a schedule and a timeline, which we're going to have to go out and borrow that money anyway at a higher cost to us overall. So
No, that's very likely. I mean, I think that, you know, I can't say it for certain, but I'd be extremely surprised if they didn't take that course, because they you know, I've been talking to your staff. They know there's issues here. They've seen the reports. I mean, they're aware of it. That's why you started down this path in the first place, knowing they had these issues. And now this is the time to do something about it.
And just again, so the viewing public can understand that, in your experience, and you've done this, this is what you do for a living.
It is.
So, that, when you say that this is the likely course that they'll take, your experience would tell you that because you've seen that happen in other communities.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, I have. I mean, I've worked in a number of communities where they deferred, and got to the point where, okay, there's no more deferring, here's your fine, and here's your consent agreement, and now you're gonna do this. And they're on a schedule. Every year, they've gotta do this project, that project, and there's no exceptions.
Which would take away from other projects that we hope to address, like roads and schools and municipality needs. So I think I guess what I'm driving at, and thank you very much. Appreciate you.
No, I think you put
doing
it
that.
very well. You are controlling your destiny by being proactive about this. The time to defer is past. I don't think there's any more deferring on some of these issues.
Right.
Thank
Lisbon already was fined in the past for
Right.
uncontrolled discharges into the river, so I don't think we
Yes.
want that to happen again. That's
Yep.
why they were, sniffing around here already.
It's the hardest thing to do, and so playing devil's advocate, being on the other side, knowing that this is going to have an impact on taxes. However, it's one way or another. If we don't address it, these pipes are underground. They're out of sight, out of mind. You're not thinking about it. You don't think about it until something bad happens, and in the form of fines or worse. So I just think we have to really, really, hopefully get the message out and the word out to the citizens of this community that this is the right time to do this.
It
Makes
is.
sense.
It is, and I mean, I think the plan is to, besides this hearing and information, is to get an informational mailer out to folks to try to explain more specifically, some of the costs and the impacts on rates. Since we just are getting this offer right now, we've not been able to get our arms completely around that, but that will be something coming out to folks in the month of October.
Diane, Norm mentions about tax increases. Is this going to be offset by the sewer rate
Sewer rates
increases?
will pay
So
for
it's not
this.
going to
It's
come
not
out of
taxes,
tax?
no.
Okay, I just want to make that
Has
clear.
nothing to do with the tax or the mill rate. It's
Sure, and so I guess I should be clear in your,
Sewer
thank you,
user
Cassie.
fees,
Well, this is not gonna be directly related to that, but again, we know that, as you pointed out so eloquently before, nothing's getting cheaper. So expenses are gonna go up from both sides of the house, municipality, school, et cetera. And so when we look at our public works and what we have to pay there just to maintain roads in the summer and the wintertime, these things are all gonna increase. And if all of a sudden, a portion of our funds that we have get allocated to a project that we have zero control over, and we have to match the schedule based on what the expenses that we have to deal with there, and we don't have any control of when we wanna go ahead and meter that out over a period of time, we're being told this has to be done by this point. So we just have to scramble and find ways. And that means that money's gonna come out of other places, or we're gonna have to increase taxes to address it, because if we don't accept the grant money, it's gotta come from somewhere, and
Yeah, what you do is you risk the taxpayer that's not on the system paying
Right.
for the system.
Right.
Which is not the case right now. And I did get the letter today. They dropped it off. We got the approval letter for the grant loan. We just are waiting, we're in line for the funding now. We're first in line.
that's encouraging.
To circle back around on the positives here, we're talking just south of $2.5 million of $9 million project. So equates to about 38% of that money is coming from grant, and the portion that we're paying for is at a reduced interest rate of 2.6% or less, which is not the current rates if we were to go out and put this bond out on the street ourselves. Those are the key sound bites that I would actually put for the listening public as well. So, any other questions of Mandy? I know she's brought us a lot of information through the January timeframe on this topic to get us here.
There's one more piece I want to throw out there, is that when we look at the overall financials for the town of what this would add to the amount that the town is bonded at, I know Diane and I had talked today about that, and what we're going to try to put together with Lydia is to be able to go ahead and show where other bonded pieces are going to come off the books so that we can see how things will shake out if we do go ahead and choose to move forward with this project. We'll actually be able to see how of that money's borrowed, where things are going to actually fall off and see decreases along the way.
Perfect. Perfect.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. Any other questions? Any other people that would like to actually speak with the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Can we take care of the rest for Mandy out of order so she can get out of here?
Yep, which number is that? 240. Okay, order 2017-240 to adopt the ordinance for proposed bond for wastewater collection and treatment system upgrades. Final reading, roll call vote is required.
I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Need a second.
I'll second.
Go for it, Twyla.
Roll call vote. Counselor Colby?
Yes.
Counselor Brunel is not here, and Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Ward?
Yes.
Counselor Crafts is not here. Counselor Crawford?
Yes.
And Counselor Albert?
Yes.
We have 5 yeas, no nays, order passed.
Thank you, Mandy. Next item, Twyla.
Is B, the proposed energy efficiency and capital infrastructure upgrades for the school.
Good evening, Richard Green, Superintendent of Schools. I just wanted to go over the handout that I provided to you this evening, and also provided copies for the community. I was hoping to put together an overview, including the financial structure of our lease purchase proposal. Overall, the proposal is for a $1.65 million lease purchase agreement for the purpose of making energy efficiency related capital improvements to the Lisbon High School, the Philip W. Sugg Middle School, Lisbon Community School, and the Gartley Street School and Central Office. These are included but not limited to converting steam to hot water boiler, classroom unit ventilator replacements, district energy management system improvements, the controls for the different heating elements, lighting, ceiling replacement, high efficiency air improvements, and exhaust fan replacement and classroom demand control ventilation upgrades. Overall, the project, this is our phase 2. As some of you were part of our phase 1 performance contract. The biggest difference is that the phase 1 performance contract was paid entirely through energy savings, so the costs for the projects were all paid for through energy savings. With this particular proposal, there are savings through energy savings, but the majority, there's still a portion of the project that needs to be paid for locally. And so one of the things that I did with this particular worksheet is, if you look down at the bottom, you'll see that the bond amount is for $1.65 million. The yearly lease purchase payment is estimated to be around $85,000 for 17 years. The funding sources, although they're estimates, there's going to be energy savings to help pay for this project. The other pieces, there's revenue. If you remember, the biggest part of our budget last year was funding the day treatment program, and I mentioned that if we had 2 or 3 students, we'd be having a different conversation. Well, we're at 5 students and potential of bringing in 3 to 4 from out of district. So although I don't build my budgets on revenue, that revenue is anticipated to be there, which again is money that we could use. The other piece is that, and if you looked at the project proposal, there's equipment upgrades in the cafeteria or the kitchen at the high school. That equipment, I believe, is, we're not sure how many years that's served its lifespan, but there is money that we use in our revenue through our nutrition department at the end of the year if there's additional funds that we use to replace equipment. So there is money available there to offset the cost of this proposal. We still have our capital reserve, and we have used the capital reserve to pay for our maintenance plan and also for any of our phase 1 pieces that we pay for. So there is money available there in capital reserve to pay for this. Contracted and professional services, that's within our budget, so anything that we have through contracted or professional services, we could move those lines to help offset the cost as well. The biggest pieces to this is that the project, if approved by the voters, if you approve it to go to referendum, and if it's approved by voters in November, the project wouldn't be done until almost 12 months after that. So we would be talking about utilizing funds from 2018, 2019. Now, just a minute ago, you said you were going to put together a spreadsheet that's going to show you all your bonds and the interest and stuff that's coming off the books. We recreated that a while back. I think it was when we were looking at the gymnasium and the track. And so we have a spreadsheet, looks like this, that has all of our bonds, has the difference in prices, and each year the interest decreases. And so at the bottom of this page, you'll see that the debt service interest, those amounts for 2018, 2019, the 32,664, that's the difference in our debt service. So it's going to be lowered by 32,000. So that money would be available by the time this would be completed and we'd have our first lease purchase payment, we would have those funds available as well. And then the following year, there's another $33,535. So within 2 years, just the money alone in debt service, not counting if we didn't use any of the revenues or whatever, this project would be paid for just through the decrease in our debt service. And so one of the things that came up when we were talking about building a gymnasium is people were asking what we were doing with these funds. And last year, we used the funds to increase our technology lines, which we decreased because of budget cuts. And then a couple other lines. So we're trying to get that out to the public that we're using money. So it isn't going to increase, the overall proposal won't directly increase your taxes. We're hoping, obviously we have operational costs and stuff, but we're going to try to self-fund this internally using existing money. So it isn't going to be an increase to the taxpayers. And again, when we have money coming off the books and even in 4 years from now, actually in 2021 and 22, we actually have the money, the funds, the bond for the front of the high school, which is one of the first projects I did as superintendent, and that's a $71,000 decrease. Now, ideally that probably be something that you turn into a life cycle preventive maintenance for the track or something like that. But again, we have money. I feel, and the school committee feels confident that we have the funds available and the potential for revenues coming in to pay for the project. And again, like yourselves, we're trying to be proactive in keeping our infrastructure going because you don't want pieces to fall apart. And although these aren't the visible pieces, there's a lot of univents and things like that. Those are critical to the air quality and controlling the heat and the type of heat, and the fact that we still have controls that are pneumatic controls, not electronic. And over the years, those, a rubber hose with air pushing through to control the heat in the classroom is pretty much obsolete, and some of the construction, some of those lines have been damaged. So there's some univents that, like at the Gartley Street, that are basically just radiators. They're not even doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be bringing air in and circulating it, and what they're acting like is radiators at this point. But I will, the other thing is we will have an informational night. We're going to include it as part of our workshop on October 23rd. We'll be sending out an informational flyer to the community and trying to explain the finances, because for the most part, that's what people will wonder. And I don't want them to feel that this is a 100% funded, guaranteed project. This is something we have to do internally, but this is what we feel we can afford. We based the $85,000 based on what I thought we could afford. And then there will be more than likely a phase 3 and possibly a phase 4 years from now as we keep moving forward. All these improvements will then fall under the contract agreement that we have with Siemens already, and they'll be maintained, so they'll be watched closely. But there's, again, a lot of energy savings and just infrastructure improvements which are needed.
So there's a workshop on the 23rd?
Well, during our workshop on the 23rd, I'll do a whole presentation. I'll send out a flyer to the community, and I'll do a short presentation that will outline the project, because people are wondering what percentages within each building. And like yourselves, with this, we're under a time crunch as well. We had all we could do to get this in this format for consideration, but we are pulling numbers and have proposals. But this is what we believe we can afford, and what pieces that need to be done next.
Do you have a time and place?
I'll be here at 7 o'clock.
Any other questions, Mr. Green?
Do you have the energy savings yearly? What's the kind of an estimate that you have for yearly energy savings?
I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I know it was higher than what they estimated, but they estimate low, and that's another piece is that we have those savings in there. The one thing we did that we didn't do correctly the first time was we took the energy savings and cut them from our budget. And then we shouldn't have. We should have kept those in there and then used that to pay for the bonds. And we didn't. We took that out. It was, and so where our energy savings or whatever aren't in there. But there are energy savings with this, and then what they predicted and what was actual. We do have a report. I just don't know it off the top of my head. But we get a report every year. They go through and test everything because it's guaranteed.
Right, I mean for this phase 2 part, because you have, in your funding sources here, you have energy savings,
percentage,
but, or,
I
just
don't
kind of a rough,
know.
About 13,000.
about 13,000 a year you'd estimate, is that?
Right now with this one.
We'd estimate
Okay.
there's an additional $30,000 in rebates.
Okay.
My question regarding the Gartley School and the fact that we're saying this is year 2, and you're saying some of the revenue that we talked about generating last year is actually starting to, looks like it's going to realize, and then some possibly. And
Yeah, it has a lot of potential.
yeah, there. So that with that potential, safe to say, and I know we can't count things before they actually appear, but safe to say that that would top out anytime in the near future, and we'd take in. Is there a cap on how many
There's-
students that we could take in? And I'm trying to understand.
We're
what-
not because of the space.
Right.
That's a half of a building pretty much, and
Right.
we're actually looking to move. There's 2 classrooms one is used for storage and the other one is used for technology. We're actually talking about moving those to another area because all we would have to do down there is just continue to add staff. But when you're talking $150 to $250 a day per student, start doing the math, and we have 5, it's $1,000 a day revenue.
Right.
But again, students move in, students move out, and you can't. But I feel pretty confident based on everything that's going on with the state budget and almost required consolidation that systems are realizing that they're transporting students right by our school, and they're doing what we used to do is they're paying $200-300 a day to transport kids to places all over the state, and when they can. And I'll use them as an example, Sabatis, RSU4. The communication, we've done a lot of cohorts with them and a lot of conversations, and we will be probably applying for a grant to combine, hopefully, our alternative ed programs as well. But they've already sent, I believe they're at 3, and looking to bring in 3 or 4 more kids. And they're saving money, and it's helping us.
Thank you.
So, I mean, again, it was a good investment by the town of Lisbon to invest in that, because it's one of the types of grants that the governor and the Department of Ed have been awarding to different school systems to consolidate special education costs. The only problem is that the commissioner told me last week is that we're not going to get credit for it because we already did it.
Right.
That's unfortunate. I don't know why they wouldn't give us any credit for it, but
For being
we're kind of ahead of the game
Yeah.
than other places. And you did it locally. We didn't go for a grant. It was through the local taxes. So, but it's money I think well spent, because it's gonna you're already showing a revenue increase than what we anticipated.
While I'm not a big fan of counting things before they actually appear at the same time, the reason I asked that question about potential growth was that in looking at the funding sources, you're going, I'm sure, conservatively off of what Gartley's going to make. If it expands, then we could see possibilities of not having to use as much of when those debt services numbers come off, and use more of the revenue that comes out of the Gartley School and not. I
Yep,
mean,
we
it'll give
could.
us options, not necessarily.
Yeah, we have multiple options. I didn't put it all in there, but to be honest with you, it could probably, I mean, if things continue to go the way they are, that alone could cover the 85,000 easily.
And that's, I guess that's where I was driving at.
You're
because then-
basically talking, right now, we'd have to go 85 school days,
So,
You're talking about Gartley Street?
the revenue from the day treatment. Now, again, we're gonna need to invest money in there. I mean, they need a playground, some other things for the kids, but, I don't wanna, but the capital reserve is available. We have funds available in that, and revenues, our adult ed revenues coming in, because they pay us 2 years behind. So we're actually gonna receive revenues for adult education, even though the programming has been changed significantly. So there's funds in there. That's why I feel very confident that we'll have the funds available to make this work. And the debt service alone will cover it in 2 years, 2.5 years.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing.
Would you like to do the same thing?
Same thing.
All right. Order 2017-242 to adopt the ordinance for proposed energy efficiency and capital infrastructure upgrades to the school project. Final reading, roll call votes required.
I need a motion.
Make a motion.
I need the second.
Second.
Go for it, Twyla.
Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Ward?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Colby?
Yes.
Counselor Crawford?
Yes.
And Counselor Albert?
Yes.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Order passed.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Next item?
Is a public hearing for 4 Zamar Street under dangerous building subchapter, which is subchapter 4 of chapter 91 of title 17 of the Maine revised statutes.
Before I open the public hearing, I have a statement to read. We are meeting this evening to conduct a hearing to determine whether the structure at 4 Zamor Street is a nuisance or dangerous building within the meaning of applicable Maine statute found at 17 MRS 2851 and succeeding statutes. If we determine that the structure is a nuisance or a dangerous building, we will then determine what actions the property owner must take. Under the same statute, or any their part of, it is a nuisance or a dangerous building, it is structurally unsafe, unstable, unsanitary, constitutes a fire hazard, is unsuitable or improper for the use of occupancy to which it is put, constitutes a hazard to health or public safety because of inadequate maintenance, dilapidation, obsolescence, abandonment, or is otherwise dangerous to life or property. This is the standard that we will use to decide whether the structure is a nuisance or a dangerous building. Before we start, I have a question to all the town councilors. 4 Zamar Street is owned by Anthony R. Gunnels and Belinda R. Gunnels. Do any town council members know the property owners or have any knowledge about this matter? That means you could not fairly and impartially hear the facts and decide the matter based on the evidence presented at this hearing. Anyone? Seeing none. Next, I ask that any representative or representatives for 4 Zamor Street or a party in interest who is present tonight, introduce yourself, identifying your name, address, and position. No one moved. Now the procedures that the council will follow in conducting this hearing are as follows. Any document to be used in this proceeding will be marked as an exhibit. I enter into evidence the code enforcement officers previously provided exhibits A1 for 4 Zamor Street. The presentation of evidence will occur in the following order. The Town of Lisbon code enforcement officer will present an opening statement and the relevant evidence regarding why he believes that the structure at issue is a nuisance or the dangerous building and what the remedy shall order. Town council's members can then ask questions of the code enforcement officer, an opposing party, or a witness. Each side can then make closing remarks for not more than 2 minutes each. Only parties to these hearings will be allowed to participate. Comments from the public will not be taken at this hearing. After all information has been presented, the record will be closed and the town council will deliberate and take a vote on whether the structure in question is a nuisance or a dangerous building. If the council determines the structure is a nuisance or a dangerous building, it shall deliberate and take a vote on the appropriate order to make a remedy to the situation. This is an administrative hearing and not a court proceeding or trial, therefore the formal rules of evidence will not apply. As chairman of the council, I will determine the appropriateness and admissibility of evidence on the advice of the town attorney. I now ask that Dennis Douglas, the town code enforcement officer, present the town council with the information relevant to the matter before it.
Council? Dennis Douglas, code enforcement, building inspector, plumbing inspector for Town of Lisbon. So we've been through this one before. We get another one. I'll run down through my script now. So certifications are included in your packet as Exhibit G. Maine Department of Economic and Community Development certification to perform duties as code enforcement officer, shoreline zoning, land use, building codes, energy codes, ventilation codes, and radon codes. Certification 1170 to perform duties as the local plumbing inspector, and Maine Department of Health and Human Services Local Health Officer certification pursuant to Title 22, Chapter 153. So that's my qualifications on dealing with this dangerous building. Property owners and parties in interest, 4 Zamore Street in Lisbon is a single-family dwelling deeded November 15th, 1993 to Anthony R. Gunnels and Belinda J. Gunnels. The deed to Anthony and Belinda Gunnels is in your packet at Exhibit A. The following entity has a mortgage on the property: Douche Bank National Trust Company. Don't know how to pronounce it, that's what I'm going with.
I think you got it right.
AKA Bankers Trust Company of California, a trustee of Vendy Mortgage Trust 1994, Carrington Mortgage Services LLC, self-identified as an attorney in fact for Douche Bank with respect to the premises. On August 18th, 2017, notice of this hearing was recorded in the Androscoggin County Registry of Deeds, Book 9669, page 179, a copy of which is included in your packet as Exhibit B. On August 24th, 2017, Anthony Gunnels was served with a notice of hearing, and that return of service is in your packet as Exhibit C. On August 24th, 2017, Belinda Gunnels was served with a notice of hearing, and that return of service is in your packet as Exhibit D. On August 24th of 2017, Douche Bank was served with a notice of hearing, and that return of service is in your packet as Exhibit E. On August 24th, 2017, Carrington Mortgage Services LLC was served with a notice of hearing, and that return of service is in your packet as Exhibit F. Additionally, the town sent the notice of hearing to 2 companies that appear to manage or have been managing the property, even though they are not parties in interest, and the town has no legal obligation to notify them. I have communicated with Safeguard Properties about the property in the past, but now contends that it does not currently perform preservation work at the property and that it is unable to identify the lien holder. Carrington Home Solutions LP has left notices at the property, but it has not responded to the town's communications or the notice. Section 3 is dangerous building. There have been numerous calls to the Lisbon Police Department concerning break-ins at 4 Zamore Street. The police reports are included in your packet as Exhibit H. Present conditions of 4 Zamore Street are portrayed in the slideshow, which is included in your packet as Exhibit I, and which I can now review. So in your packet, you have a slideshow. Pretty self-explanatory in this case, probably one of the worst cases that I have here in town. It's interesting because it is in a small neighborhood, or a tight neighborhood, so there are children around, kids playing. You could drive by this house 100 times and not realize the actual condition of what's going on. And being in the building trades my entire life, I am still trying to question how and why it's happening. But for the most sense, this building is real in jeopardy of collapsing in on itself. Right now, the whole foundation of the place is caving in, as you'll see throughout the photos. So, first picture is just the exterior, showing it's been vacant for several years, dilapidated shingles, tarps that have, dried and rotted off and whatnot, and no appearance to take care of the property at all. Second slide shows inadequately maintained and dilapidated exterior, roof shingles missing, siding in disrepair, the trims decayed, missing, portions of a shredded tarp remain, suggesting that it had been placed on the roof because of leaking, and the property has been abandoned. Third slide, the pictures show the overall dilapidation of the structure. The exterior stair ramps are falling apart and do not meet current building code standards, and abandoned property outside and inside the property is unsafe and creates a fire hazard. Fourth slide, the foundation along the rear wall of the home and bulkhead area is caved in. As you'll see on the bottom picture, that foundation is literally caved into the home at this point, and it's growing rapidly. Next slide is the interior shot. The top one is actually that back wall showing where the bulkhead was and the foundation wall caved in. And what's really striking is if you look back at that first slide, you'd never see it from looking at it from the outside. If you go down in the basement, the entire front wall of that foundation is literally cracked in half and is buckled in, is in jeopardy of falling in at any time now.
You were down in there taking those pictures?
Oh, yeah. There's kids going in this place. We have police reports showing that. So it's a serious one at this point. Then some interior shots showing the water damage, mold, saturated insulation, just a complete lack of any maintenance whatsoever. But so I think this one pretty self-explanatory on why it's before you as a dangerous building. So conclusion on 4 Zamore Street is a dangerous building for the following reasons. The foundation, portions which are absent and other portions which are collapsing and caving in, is structurally unsafe, unstable, constitutes a major hazard to health or safety, and is dangerous to life or property. The roof and rafter structure is deteriorated and compromised, ceiling and floor joists are failing, making the building structurally unsafe and constitutes a safety hazard. The roof is compromised, roof shingles are missing, roof allows water into the building. Interior of the structure has significant water damage, mold growth prevalent throughout, creating unsanitary conditions, constituting a health hazard and making the structure unsuitable for occupancy. Property has been vacant for several years and is not secure, constituting a fire hazard and a hazard to health or safety. Siding is in disrepair and the trim is decayed or missing because of inadequate maintenance, dilapidation, and abandonment. And the exterior stairs and ramp appear to be inadequately maintained, are deteriorated, and do not meet current building standards, constituting a hazard to health or safety. So as such, we ask that you adopt the proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law in order that the structure be demolished. I'll answer any questions you have.
We have any of Dennis?
Pretty self-explanatory.
Pretty
It's the
clear.
house where it lives, right?
Yeah, it could be. We'll tie a red balloon tomorrow, see what we get for reaction.
Nice.
So can we take
Yes, are you
that one
ready?
out of action? Out of order, I mean?
Yep, you're gonna close the public hearing.
Please.
Order 2017-235 to secure the dangerous structure at 4 Seymour Street.
I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
That's just all in favor, right?
Yes, it is.
All in favor?
This is to approve the findings of fact, conclusion of law, and
Order of demolish.
Yep.
demolition, correct? Order passed, 5-0.
Are we set, Mr. Carey? Everything was up to snuff? Yes. You were dismissed, sir. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item 12.
We move back to audience participation and response for agenda items.
That was a roundabout.
Good evening. I'm Don Fellows from the Lisbon side of town over here. Two things before you tonight, one of which is 2017-234, which is a proposed amendment to Chapter 70. I think you already know what it is, but it's simply to eliminate the 30-day period between the planning board's hearing and the taking it up of the town council of any proposed ordinance in Chapter 70. Some of this language in this ordinance was originally left over from the days of selectmen form of government and where the approving authority for anything was the town meeting. So those 30-day requirements, we believe, were in there for that reason. So in the interest of streamlining things and moving things along a little faster, that's why it's being proposed. The second item is 2017-236, which is to extend the moratorium ordinance on retail marijuana establishments, stores, and social clubs. And it just brings up a point, since there is coming sooner or later proposed state regulation on recreational marijuana beyond personal use. The planning board has been very slowly working on any proposal for our town for a recreational marijuana ordinance if we choose to, or if you choose to have one. Right now, we're doing the recreational marijuana survey, which is on the town website, and we're encouraging anyone that's 18 years old and a voter or a resident of the town to participate in that 11-question survey. It's not very long, it's pretty much to the point, and it's only up there for a limited amount of time, I think the 22nd of the month. And I looked at it tonight, I'm rather encouraged because we have as of 6 o'clock, we have 341 responses. And that's more than we've had on recent surveys with SurveyMonkey. So we'd like to get 9,000 well, not 9,000, we'd like to get the voters anyway, all we could, because we really would like everybody's attitude. This town narrowly voted down on the recreational marijuana, and of course it passed statewide. So we really are interested in what the town thinks. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
How many was that again, mister? How many have we had so far?
341.
Thank you, sir.
It ends on the 22nd, you said?
It's on the survey itself.
Okay.
Couldn't find it on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, moving right along, Twyla.
The next item is the consent agenda. Any counselor wishing to remove an item may do so now. Seeing none. Order 2017-229 to approve the municipal accounts payable and payroll warrants 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, and 33, and 34. And to approve the school accounts payroll warrants 1013, 1014, 1015, number 7, and 1805. And to approve the minutes of September 5 and the regular meeting minutes for September 12th, plus schedule a public hearing for October 3 to discuss a special entertainment permit for the Left Hand Club and a victualer's license for Christine Amaya doing business as Chris's House.
I need a motion.
Make a motion.
Need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Order passed 5-0.
What was that? Next item.
Wide swath.
Next item, please.
Under council orders, ordinances, and resolutions, order 2017-230, the Public Works and Sewer 3/4 ton pickup bids.
Good evening, Ryan Layton, Public Works Director. In your packets, you have a copy of the RFP that we sent out to as many car dealers as I could find in the state of Maine. And we received 4 bids, a couple Chevys, a Ford, and a Dodge. And the low bid was a Dodge from Darlings in Augusta for $25,843. And after reviewing the bids and taking into consideration what's available for budget, requesting permission to purchase 1 truck for the sewer department and to utilize the carry forward funds that were approved in the previous year's budget, as well as the $4,000 that was budgeted in the the parks. Do you have 2 budgets?
No, he's got one now.
Whatever Mark's budget is, that he carried $4,000 in to buy the truck that we have at the sewer department, is the one that we were looking at using. And forego doing anything other than to continue to look for a used one at the Public Works Department based on what we have for available funding.
Any questions of Ryan?
I just had one that jumped out at me, and it's probably standard, but I just didn't see it in any of the other bids. On the proposed bid that we're gonna accept, they wanted to charge $300 per key. I saw that, and I thought that $310 per key. Did
They
you
come
see-
with 2, this is, I think, part of this is an older bid spec. It comes with 2 of the key fobs.
Yeah,
And to buy 2 additional ones, they're $310 each.
so $620 for 2 keys?
Right, and their experience was that the 2 that you get usually is all that you need, and that's why they're only supplying 2.
Okay.
If we
so-
want to add for 2 more, it's an additional $300.
No, I just saw that some of the other, like, the next bid after that, they put on there.
They included them all.
Yeah, I just thought that was, and it wasn't that much of a difference in the units, but I just didn't know what your take was. I also saw, I think it was some sort of dock fee, though, like $1,300 or something like that, $1,395 on the bid that we're proposed to accept, whereas there was no
Right.
dock fee, something like that. I realize it's still a lower amount, I just thought it was kind of
Right.
odd. All right.
Given the nature that this one actually comes from the rates
Mhm.
for the enterprise fund, I'm okay with the recommendation. I appreciate the perspective, keeping it open for the other used to try to live within the budget,
Yep.
as we talked about last time. So by all means, if you find something, I'd even entertain special consideration if we have to get it on the agenda. If you've got the idea out there, you've been given the ability to be able to do so. If you find something in the wheelhouse associated with that, and be able to make it, put yourself on the agenda to get it before us, for sure.
That was one more thing I wanted to drop out of there too. The warranty piece on the bid that we're accepting, they covering that for 36 bumper to bumper?
Yep.
They are, okay, good.
That's, if it was any more, then they would have had the exception check mark and then explained it.
I just saw, I can't remember which bid it was. I went through all of them, and I was like, I saw one, they had stricken it. It was a 24, and they had stricken it out. And I just want to make sure I was on the, that's why I jumped back to it real quick. Thank you.
No problem.
No issue with Dodge over Chevy over Ford?
Yeah.
We're not gonna get into that.
No, we're not?
The only reason I
I don't-
ask,
I- personally,
I have to ask, hearing Roger say it several times associated
Yeah.
with that I'm going back to that. And I know that in Lewiston, we are trying to standardize because there is efficiencies that are actually downplay. You may save a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 on the front end, but it costs you more in the maintenance for having one odd vehicle in the fleet.
What do we have?
We have our fleet is entirely.
I get that. I get
Okay,
that.
so we're not beholden to one particular brand, is what you're saying. All right.
Depends on who you talk to. I'm not.
I'm
but
talking
not.
to you though.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
if you're
beyond
looking
that.
at
Your recommendation holds the weight.
Yeah, I'm
And then I
comfortable, I'm comfortable with the
Okay.
Dodge, to be quite honest. I mean, my issues that we've had, we've gone over and over, and, GMCs, it seems like, especially when you're running a plow in the front, I've heard, but everything has their own issue. The Dodge and the Ford both have a solid axle front solid axle, so that's one of the reasons that we preferred them originally, but,
Okay. No is the answer.
Good, no, that's great.
No,
It's perfect.
okay. Any other questions, Ryan?
Answered everything I needed. Thank you.
I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Order passed 5-0.
Thank you, sir. Next item, Twyla?
Order 2017-231, Kelly Park Roads.
I'll just hang out here. I'm not sure if Diane's handling this one or.
No, you can go right for it.
We received kind of a joint effort here. The developer for Kelly Park has reached out to discuss the possibility of the town accepting Premier Drive and Champagne Lane. Diane has spoken with the town attorney and gotten specific process what needs to happen there. It's my understanding that they need to provide the council with a deed and some formal paperwork that they need to handle on their end. And I think that tonight the only issue we were looking at was trying to determine if the council intended to accept those streets or if they don't want to accept those streets. Or if they don't want to accept additional streets, I should say, to be the responsibility of the town. So my understanding, I think that when they went through the process, the original intent was for the town to assume them, but that's not a decision that's made at the planning board level. It's something that the town council has to make the decision
Right.
on.
But remembering that process vetted through the planning board, I know they spent considerable effort to make sure that it was up to code, that accepting these streets, we would have no issues. It was 24 versus 16 foot. It was a pretty sizable discussion at their level, and everything's in compliance. My question is does he have a time frame on completion? Because we can't accept something that's incomplete either.
Based on our discussions, and they've been ongoing, it's my understanding his intention is to have Premier Drive and Champagne Lane surface paved as soon as possible this season.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know how long the execution on the other end, from the legal standpoint, deed
Right,
development
right,
and all
right,
that
right.
stuff takes.
To go back to the original question, I don't see that there'd be any issue with accepting. Anybody else in the opposing view?
Do you have any idea of the timeline of that? How long that would take?
I don't know. It's gonna be up to him to get all the paperwork from his attorney and then submit it to us for you to approve. Once you approve the deed, then you can accept the road.
Now, who determines completion? You?
Final acceptance is in front of the town council. It's a combination, I think, of
Yeah, but-
myself, the code enforcement officer, water department, and then sewer department, because I mean.
So
it's the
there's
same
a
thing.
sign-off portion that we based on the recommendation that we
Nothing-
presented before us.
Nothing formal in the ordinance, but I think from a,
This road is complete based on
Right.
what you guys is. That's
you
what.
have that, and I'm not at the point to be able to.
Yeah, no,
provide that to you.
but
Yeah.
you, anybody in the opposed, the fact is accepting, I don't think that was ever in question in that. The fact is, I know that that's why the planning board vetted it the way they did, and they made changes to the plans, and,
Why do we want to accept that roads?
why wouldn't we?
I know.
Right? I'm hearing no. And if you need more official associated with that, Is there an action that's necessary on this, Twyla?
I mean, you can vote tonight that you intend, but there's nothing binding about it. It's just gonna send a message to
Yes,
Mr.
okay,
Kelly
let's,
to move forward.
I need a
with all the work.
I'll make the motion. We intend to actually accept the 2 streets that he's talking about at this time upon completion and the deed coming in. I need a second.
A second.
In favor?
Order passed, 5-0.
Let the record show 5-0 to the developer that the intention is associated with the council. Thank you, sir. You hanging out again. Next item.
Order 2017-232, Union Street Gas Line Project.
We're doing
Tom,
nothing. We're
maybe a
doing
word?
nothing.
I don't know at this point. We put out the
Yep.
RFP to perform the open trench work, and we got no bids. We
It's
had
time
an-
of year.
We had, yeah, I mean, we have a proposal from ETTI, and it was in the $20,000 range. We also received a proposal from Ranger, based on the fact that they're gonna be doing the 196 Union Street work. Their proposal is in the $30,000 range. ETTI can do the work this year. They didn't put in,
Time frame.
they didn't put in an RFP. They didn't put in a bid per the RFP that we had put out, but they were the ones that had already walked the job and worked up a written estimate that we, you know, I utilized that to come up with the RFP. So they can still do the work if we wanted to proceed this fall. But we kind of put 2 of these together because the bids we received from the mechanical contractors to replace the boiler at the fire station and upgrade the burner at the library are significantly higher than the written estimates that we'd received prior.
Right.
We did, I do have an email confirmation that I asked our current HVAC rep why his original bid, or his original quote was about $3,000 less than what he put in for his official quote, and
Time of year.
I don't, I have an email saying that
he can't say it.
I have an email saying that he would hold his original $5,000 and change quote to do the library, and he was the low bidder of the 2 bids we had anyway.
Right.
But the fire station throws the whole wrench in this situation because it's
new.
it's significantly more, and based on doing the process, I didn't take into consideration that what was being originally proposed by our current HVAC provider is strictly a replacement system for what's there and not an upgraded condensing gas boiler or something along those lines that would be eligible for efficiency main rebates. So with that in mind, he did provide me 2 prices. The condensing gas boiler is higher, but the rebates
Net
that we can
cost.
get, and those I don't have total amounts either, and that's why I was picking Siemens' brain when he was here, and it's, because you have to actually tell Efficiency Main what it is you're gonna do, and they can tell you, you know, exactly, specifically what you're gonna do, and then they can provide you with estimated rebate amounts, so. I don't know, I really don't know if the best thing to do is to put the do the gas work this fall, but I recall, I think when we did MTM, you had a time frame after the gas line was installed in which you had to fire off the utility. But if we get it in this fall, if those other 2 utilities that, you know, the other 2 buildings that want to connect, if that constitutes.
Right. Right.
You know, the
Is
starting
there any
process.
sunset on the efficiency main rebate? Is there a time frame?
As Charlie said, they're available currently.
Based on, yeah, exactly. We ran into it just recently on efficiency lighting. We thought we had to the end of the year, and the fact is, no, it's end of September. Going in the way that you outline your proposal or facts at this point, I'd feel better if ETTI had bid it. I think we're circumventing our bid process. I think your recommendation stands, as the fact is reject all bids and address this in the spring when we have a little more solid information to work with.
I'd feel comfortable. It seems like we've got a lot of projects going on that seem to be rushing, and I'm getting a little uncomfortable with the way things are proceeding. So I'd like to have a little more time, and it just means that we'll have to put out the oil this year for the library and the fire station.
Right.
I think that's smarter than finding out that we did something wrong and have to go back and, at a much larger cost.
We can bid it out again during the winter when people are hungry for work, you know?
If they are, I mean, that's just it too. I mean, the workloads for people, and
Right. It's
Trust your judgment. I was gonna say, trust your judgment to find a spot where there's a lull and throw
Yeah.
the bids out there.
Yeah, knowing fully well it has to be vetted from both sides, because the fact that we're looking for the payback on this now includes 20,000 for trenching, as well as the, help me now, 40, 50 grand that we had between the two fund balance allocations.
Well, the boiler, I mean, if you went based on what we got for bids, you're talking $45,000 to upgrade the fire station and the
Which was over what we had set aside to begin with.
35,000, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
35. Yes.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Okay. Yeah, so
Well, I don't remember what we said, I don't remember what we set aside now.
that's fine. The funds haven't, there's no exposure at this point. Both are functioning. We don't have a need to be able to rush into a decision that just doesn't seem like we have more questions than answers.
There's no chance of the gas lines coming through until we do the work with DOT anyway, because I thought that, weren't they partnered up together? Am I imagining that? Or the gas lines, they're not in the ground right now, are they?
It is where it would make the connection to. So by putting in the Union Street connection,
It's gonna run it up further?
it would get what we need to do cross-country to get into the two buildings that we needed to get into.
We just have to do it
Right
before
now,
we build the
right now,
street.
natural gas is only 196.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And then you'd have to come up Union and then down Main. I mean, there's been significant
again.
discussions about extending natural gas out Main Street
Yeah,
to
that's-
Waypoint, but that's been discussions. There's been no concrete plan established as far as that's concerned.
'Cause I thought
'Cause
I-
who's gonna pay for it, who's gonna do it, and all that stuff.
I thought that was the talk. The hope was to try to spurn and encourage. At the same time, we're doing the work on Main Street to be able to get get to a point where we get the gas and get all for one, everybody in there doing the same thing all at the same time.
And that's a doubly concerning point, just as we're talking about that, is you've got sewer project, potential water project, talking about natural gas, and DOT.
What could go wrong?
I got a quick question. Is anybody expressing any interest in using natural gas in these areas?
There's been some interest from few and far between, I guess, but a majority of it is, it's really on the utilities, it's the utilities' responsibility to
Solicit.
the customers. And basically, they're not gonna go solicit customers that they're nowhere near. I mean, and that's just it. It's kinda like the chicken before the egg type of deal, and, and once the gas line got up, I mean, once we were having discussions about bringing it up to Main Street and then down Main Street for our purposes, now he can go to those folks that are on Union Street and say, hey, going right by, we'd love to get you on, and then that helps, because they've got to do all their calculations on their end to make it work. Because they can't just run it without having the users to be able to justify the cost for the expansion.
Right.
So I think the time pressure was we had to do it before DOT redoes Main Street, because then it'll be 5 years, you can't do anything. So am I correct, that's been pushed back? Mandy was saying to 2020? So, I mean, it's not a rush to do it this fall
I'm
or
gonna stick with
spring
my
then.
theory that it'll be at least a year after the public hearing, and there's not a public hearing scheduled.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time there at least to try to figure out what we're gonna do.
We still haven't play on the Mill Street Bridge too, so yeah, there's more time.
That'll be, that's my,
I know, and
a
it's
year after the public hearing would be this coming spring, so it'll be.
right in the time frame.
Yep.
Any other questions, Orion? I need a motion to accept his recommendation, which is to reject all bids.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Pass 5-0.
Thank you, Ryan.
Next item, Twyla?
Order 2017-233, the Senator grant for improvements to the kitchen at MTM.
We like money.
The Alfred M. Centers Fund is a private charitable trust that focuses on communities just in the Mid-Coast area. And there's a considerable amount of money available, and we have applied for this trust fund, this grant before, and we won the grant. I think it was 1997 or 1998, and it's a non-matching grant. If you looked at the application, it's a one-page. It's very simple. They mentioned in the application process itself that they want you to be brief, and so it's a simple application. And we'd like to apply for a $3,000 application to fund a new refrigerator that we have that blown out last month in the MTM Center. The refrigerator was built in the 1950s, and the building was built around the refrigerator. We have to knock out a wall to get it out. We've had professionals come in.
That's why Mark got the kitchen to begin with.
And the reason why we're applying for a grant instead of using current funds is because this refrigerator is used for Meals on Wheels. It's used for other civic organizations, not just the MTM, the rec center, or the senior program. It's used by a lot of different organizations, and I think
Yep.
that we'd be good applicants for these kinds of funds.
How are they getting by right now?
We brought in a home refrigerator for LACO and for the Meals on Wheels. They have to refrigerate and freeze certain portions
Right.
of their food. to
Right,
keep-
right.
You gotta take out a wall to get that thing out of there?
We do, yeah. Yeah, a cement wall.
So who would actually be making the application? 'Cause it wouldn't be the town, would it? Because
It would be the Parks and Rec Department,
would it be? Okay.
yeah.
'Cause it says here to make grants to public charities, so I was just wondering if the town qualifies under that.
We got it before. We got it before because we worked with the DARE program.
Okay.
And, DARE is, it's,
Mhm.
even though it's a part of the police department,
Right.
it's it's a separate organization, so same with our senior program,
Mhm.
and the same with Meals on Wheels and LACO.
Lego,
Yeah,
right.
You got 3 units right there using it.
right.
Yeah.
So it certainly makes sense.
It just, all those places use that one central location, so I think that's how they,
Right. So it's great that they're in our building, that we're using it, because, it opens us up for more opportunities.
I think it's a great job by you folks to all find a grant that's gonna meet a need at this much cost to the taxpayers.
Right,
Great, thank
right.
you.
Yep.
Thank you for doing that.
It's an awesome program as well, by the way. Anything
Yep.
the seniors actually do there.
Yep.
She's an amazing person.
Talking about Lynn?
Yeah.
Or-
All of you, all the staff.
Oh,
No, I'm
okay.
talking about
All the
Lynn.
staff.
I know, yeah,
It-
she-
it-
Oh,
it's-
this is amazing.
Every time I drive by that place, my mom's craning her neck, looking at the sign, trying to figure out where they're going next, and decide if she wants to go with.
Right.
So, it's pretty
Yeah.
good stuff.
They went to Kennebunk today to see a trolley museum, and
Nice.
the bus was packed, so, I mean,
Going to Nashville, when are they going to Nashville, or did they already
for
go?
November.
November, that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot going on.
Good. Well, thank you.
I need a motion.
Making that motion.
I'll
Yes,
second.
All in favor?
All right, great, thank
Order
you very
passed,
much.
5-0.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Mark. Next item, Twyla?
Order 2017-234, it's an ordinance, amendment to Chapter 70, zoning ordinance, Article 1 in general, Section 70-7 amendment. This is the first reading, roll call vote is
What am I
required.
doing?
This is pricing, right? We took out the language for the fact that it was in there that no, I'm sorry, that's the 30 days. Any other questions on that, now that I've totally muddied it up for you? It's reducing the 30 days from the time the planning board actually takes their action before we
One
actually have to
dawn.
take it up, right?
One Don spoke on, yeah.
Right. Seeing no questions, I need a motion.
I'll make the motion. Second.
All in favor?
This is
No, it's a roll call vote.
Oh, sorry.
Roll call vote.
Yes, I saw where's
But-
Chris? I miss Chris.
That was, all that was a preview. It was a preview. It's
Exactly.
all right. It's okay.
Counselor Colby,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Albert,
Yes.
Counselor Crawford,
Yes.
and I think
Me,
Counselor Ward.
the guy that botched that, yes,
All right, all those are all 5 yeses.
absolutely. Next item, Twyla.
Order passed. We did the dangerous buildings.
We,
Was the
36?
one. Yep, if you like, yeah, we'll do 36. Order 2017-236, ordinance, extend the moratorium ordinance on retail marijuana establishments, stores, and social clubs. This is the final reading, roll call votes required.
I'll make the motion.
I need a
I'll
second.
second.
All in favor?
At
Nope.
roll
Oh,
call.
Oh, roll call again. I got, playing the part of Chris.
Okay,
Good.
Counselor
You're
Ward,
okay.
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Colby,
Yes.
Counselor Crawford,
Yes.
Counselor Albert.
Yes.
5 yeas, 0 nays, order passed.
Next item, Twyla.
3 items you could combine like you did last time,
Let's
which
do
would
it.
be order 2017-237, 38, and 39. They're ordinances, amendment to Chapter 10, Section 166A to remove the processing fee for records checks. Amendment to Chapter 10, 406A2 to remove the processing fee for records checks. And ordinance amendment to Chapter 10, Section 505A2 to remove the processing fee for records checks.
Bundling. I like it.
Final reading, that,
Yes, as a final reading, a roll call vote is required.
I need a motion,
Make the motion.
I'll second.
And a roll call vote?
please. Got that one right. Three's the charm.
Counselor Ward,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Albert,
Yes.
Counselor Crawford,
Yes.
and Counselor Colby.
Yes.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Order passes.
Dot, be sure to tell us if we're actually doing all right tonight when you listen to it, because I entertain the hell out of myself.
No, I didn't look. I'm sorry. I was too self-absorbed.
Next item.
Next one, we have done 240, so we're at Order 2017-241. The ballot recommendation for the proposed bond for the wastewater collection and treatment system upgrades. Your motion is to make a recommendation for the ballot. Usually it's a yes or no on the ballot.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
5-0, yes.
Yes.
The motion was for yes?
Yes.
Okay, and the other one is Order 2017-243, the ballot recommendation for the proposed energy efficiency and capital infrastructure upgrades school project.
Again, that's a motion for yes.
Okay,
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
and order pass, 5-0.
Bless you.
And Order 2017-244, to adopt the warrant for the November 7, 2017 election, as presented.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Order pass, 5-0.
Voting credentials.
Okay, yes, for MMA's annual business meeting.
So in here, you would put Chris and Mark, if they intend to go to the annual meeting. They're both signed up for both days at the conference. So one can be the official voting delegate, and the other one can be
I
an
nominate
alternate.
Chris to be the official, and I'll be the alternate.
All we need is a second.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Quick, while his mouth is still hanging open.
That is the motion. All in favor of that?
Quarter past
They have
5-0.
choice.
You're drafted.
You remember when you were on the fence deciding if you were going to go? You're going.
Airman. Ooh.
Oh, them's fighting words, right?
They are.
Next item, Twyla.
Under other business, council committee reports.
So I'll tell you right now that Mr. Green stole all my thunder, so we'll move on from there.
Planning board. They met last Thursday. They had a crafts, the property on 190, Route 9, 3-unit subdivision in the back. And they accepted the resignation of Jim Lemieux. So we have 2 seats open on the planning board. So anybody in the public that we could actually solicit or is interested, sees it on the marquee or whatever, please come forward, fill out the application, so we can get those seats filled as soon as possible.
And thank you, Jim, for your service.
Absolutely. Water,
I got nothing this week.
LDC?
We're starting to circle back around. I talked to one of the LDC members tonight, and hopefully we're going to get back on, in motion here and start looking at some new projects to tackle.
Conservation, sir.
Nothing to report?
Recreation.
I have to touch base with Mark. There was a issue with communication.
On whose end?
Mark's.
Okay. County, I have my first budget committee meeting tomorrow night. Preliminarily, they don't have the local piece calculated yet, but if you take their budget and you apply the same percentage in the dooryard of where we were at last year, we're looking at a $34,000 starting point increase to the town again this year. Obviously, that won't be where they settle, but I'll have more when it comes out.
Hey, live stream that. I'm really anxious
Oh, that
to
would be
watch
awesome. It is, believe it or not. The fact is, it is, there is a dude there, and he will wing that camera around whenever stupid thing I'm actually saying. The fact is, 'cause their meeting was a little more entertaining and got quite animated in a couple different locations. They were more filming the people in the crowd versus the.
gonna do that too?
Live stream?
Yeah.
Well, I would say live stream, they have the same thing we have. Instead of a static camera, they have a camera operator that's actually there from help me now, what's the local?
Great Falls.
Great Falls. Great Falls, they have a cameraman there, so he will,
We do our public hearings.
he
for,
will
like,
wing that thing around in a 180 if you actually open your mouth at the right time. So,
Dot has a question.
yes, Dot? Whenever the county commissioner ones are aired, it's actually will be the same time and same place as that. To answer the question, I don't know, but I do know it is because Great Falls is present at all their meetings, so look for it.
If you go to the Great Falls website, and if you don't have access to the internet, then just give them a call. Give Great Falls TV a call. Yeah, and then they can at least tell you when to expect and what to look for.
But there's a lot of, on their discussion with their capital plan or, their 5-year plan and, the budget as it is with the jail and other topics there, it's pretty sizable for what they have to come up with for a budget as well.
Be the first time.
Library, sir.
Nothing new to report.
Town manager.
Yeah, last week, Tracy and I went to the county to see the county officials honor and present certificates to the Spirit of America Award recipients. And Dawn and Karen from the Lisbon Development Committee and Route 196, I guess is what it used to be
Yep.
at the beginning. They were there, were present, and what was neat about that night was the Boy Scouts were there from another community, and Lydia's 3 sons were there getting the same exact award, so it was really funny to see Lydia's husband there, and I had no idea they were gonna be in the room, but there were a lot of people, a lot of great volunteers all around Androscoggin County, and it's great that they're recognized.
It's awesome.
And the audit has started. They've been on site here. It was a couple of weeks ago. I don't believe they're coming back here. I think they're done with us as far as on-site work. We still are giving them information, but as far as I know, they're still on target to do their presentation to you in November.
Perfect.
So far,
Perfect.
so good.
That sounds great. That puts everything in the time frame with the school annual report and all of that to bed before the holidays. That sounds good.
Taxes were due yesterday, so it's been extremely busy here in the office, and we're still processing tax payments from the escrow accounts. We got the big packet in the mail late yesterday, and it's taking a long time to process it, but a lot of good money coming in, and that's all I have to say.
Cool. Audience participation for new items.
It dwindled, didn't it?
Sound quality must be all right, because you and Mr. Fillmore were actually after it, so at least we're taking care of it. You'll let us know too, right? Thank you, Dot. Appointments?
Order 2017-246 to accept the planning board resignation from Jim Lemayo, an associate member's term was until 2018.
Now, if we say no, that means he's still a member? I need a motion on that.
I'll
Make
make,
that motion.
there it is. I'll second.
Again, thank you for your service, but yes, all in favor?
Order passed 5-0. Next is order 2017-247 to extend Dan Lehman's term on the planning board to 2020.
Yeah,
Looks-
that was an error on our
Yeah,
part.
it was the
Clerical.
original one, I read it, we inadvertently, somehow, some way got the 2019 date stuck in there. It should have been to 2020 for his term.
And he's already designated a full member now, right?
Yes.
So if you don't mind, we'll
We use
correct
his associate member expiration.
Right.
So,
I need a motion.
Make the motion.
A second.
All in favor?
Thank you, 5-0, passed.
Any other communications that haven't already been addressed?
Next Tuesday, the 26th, at 6 o'clock, we have our first Moxie committee meeting. So anybody who's to come out
Okay.
and help, it'd be greatly appreciated.
I just want to go ahead and say, how about them Greyhounds? A big win last week, and keep on rolling.
Anybody else? Next item, 12?
There is no executive session, will be in order to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
5-0.
Thank you.
On behalf of Councilor Brunel, thank you for coming out.
Hey, Diane, before we, guys, I'm gonna see time.
I'm assuming the binders come back again?
Yeah,
Yes, they need to,
just leave them right up here?
yeah, leave them right there.
That's, yeah, that's.
Yeah?
I made you walk
Huh?
into my office. I was an Air Force intelligence